It's 2 o'clock on Wednesday, and it's time for another exciting episode of Taxi's Quarantini Happy Hour. Woohoo! For musicians from all over the globe. Yeah, baby. And thank you, fake audience. Thank you, fake band. Really good button ending on that sucker. Let's say hello to the folks in the chat room. Hello, everybody. How are you guys? It always freaks me out for the first minute until I see people say, "Hey, Michael, how are you?" I don't know if it's actually broadcasting. Hello, Akira Kenyon, Brad Gray, Cass McKenty, Clay Bearden, Dan Weber, Brad Roseborough, David Miller, Clay Bearden again. You're in there twice, Clay. You've cloned yourself. Hello, everybody. Glad to have you with me again for another one of these Quarantini happy hours. A way for musicians from all over the world to just hang out so that we're not like bored and lonely sitting around our houses. What do I want to tell you guys about today? I'm going to do some stuff, and then I want you guys to pick some topics to talk about. I should, for those who've never seen the show before, may watch the archive version later. I'm Michael Lasco. I'm the founder of Taxi Independent A&R. We do a regular show every Monday at 4 o'clock on YouTube called, hang on a second. Called Taxi TV. And I was feeling kind of alone during this because my family's not home, and somebody in the chat room said, "Hey, we should do a daily hangout." So here we are. So I hope everybody from all over the world, musicians all over the world in particular, get to watch this. I do want to mention, before I go any further, this is a really cool opportunity that everybody should know about. There's a thing called the Music Pro Cafe. We just sent out an email about it, Taxi's Twitter account and Facebook and probably Instagram all have it. The deadline to enter for this thing is 8 p.m. tonight. And frankly, I don't know if that's East Coast time or West Coast time, but the deal is Music Pro is going to do a live concert, and they're looking for acts. So the deadline to get in on that, if you're a performing artist, is in just a few hours. So I hope you check it out. Music Pro was a sponsor of the Road Rally last year. They're awesome people. They provide insurance for musicians who play gigs and stuff. So I think that in a month where they're probably not seeing a lot of new signups for insurance for gigging musicians, the fact that they're putting this together, I think, is really, really cool. So check it out. You could probably just Google Music Pro Cafe or go to the Taxi email that if you're a regular and you're on our list. By the way, for those of you watching, if you are not already on Taxi's email list and you're probably thinking, "Oh, geez, I don't want to join yet another email list," you probably should join ours. And here's why. Is we've got listings, literally like the biggest stash of opportunities for composers, artists, songwriters that we've ever had in the company's 28-year history, which is kind of ironic considering what's going on in the world right now. But if you go to taxi.com and go on our homepage, you'll see a big fat red button, I think is in the lower left corner. Click that button and fill out the form. You can always cancel the emails, you can always unsubscribe from the list, but you will get daily alerts. Typically 3 every day of the year, with the exception, I think, of Christmas and Easter. Get 3 alerts as to what the industry has reached out to us and said, "Can you find us some of this?" And that's how our members are successful, is they respond to those. Also want to mention that we have just a ton of country listings that have been coming in lately. One of our screeners that was gone for a couple of years recently returned. He's back in Nashville. He's super well connected. Has been a pretty high-level A&R executive in the industry for quite some time. And he pretty much knows everybody who's anybody, and he's bringing in a lot of country listings. And certainly we appreciate that. I know our members appreciate that. Let's see, what have I not talked about? Oh, Monday's Taxi TV, by the way. I'm going to have Randon Purcell on. one of our members who's becoming quite successful in the film trailer and TV promo business. And so we're going to talk. I'm going to do a split screen remote with him. We think we've got the technology ironed out to get that straight. I've got my bandwidth happening, so I'm really happy about that. We're going to do a little test tomorrow. So 99% sure that Monday's Taxi TV, which is at 4 p.m. Pacific time, we're going to do a 90-minute show all about what trailers, how they're made, why they're made, the process that they go through when they're made, how the music is, decided what they need, the process of going back and forth with the trailer house on, doing edits and changes and remixes and blah, 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 all that stuff. And then we're going to have Randon demonstrate some really incredible software that I recently saw in a YouTube video that he is one of the creators of. So we're going to have him demonstrate that. There you go. Also, at the end of this episode, you can win a free book by going to the archive version. It usually takes about 5 minutes maybe for YouTube to get the archive up, and then you can post a comment. The person who leaves the best comment gets a free book. And the book that I'm going to give away today is Writing Production Music for Television by Steve Barden. If you don't have this book, you need to have this book. So there you go. Scott Hansen says he dated a girl who lived in a trailer. I'll let her know to watch. Yes, Scott Hansen is back, and we're glad to have him. Oh, man, he's also asking what I want on my pizza tonight because he owns a pizza restaurant in Cleveland. Go ahead and plug that restaurant for the folks that live in Cleveland because you're doing takeouts. Yay! Greg Carosa says he's got the Steve Barden book and it's awesome. All right, Steve, keep it clean. Scott, keep it clean in the chat room, dude. Yeah, Scott should do stand up, but keep it clean here. All right. I want to show you guys something funny. I don't think I've shown this on camera before. So, as I mentioned yesterday in the Hangout, I'm moderately germophobic in real life. Not like obsessive about it, but I wash my hands a fair amount. I tend to avoid people that are trying to sneeze in my face in public places, all that stuff. And now, of course, I'm taking it to a new level. So, as a joke, about 10 years ago, several members of my entire staff actually gave me an ultraviolet, a UVC wavelength sanitizing wand as a holiday present, and they thought it was hysterically funny. There it is. Did I show this yesterday? I can't remember. Anyway, I'm really glad to have it. I've even been sanitizing my fruit that I bring home from the grocery store. Oh, speaking of grocery stores, yesterday, about 6:15, I went to two grocery stores. I went to a Trader Joe's and Ralph's, which is a big chain out here in California. I am shocked, absolutely shocked by how many people are not following social distancing protocols, not wearing masks, not wearing gloves. The checkers at the Trader Joe's were not wearing gloves, and so they're handling food and stuff from the person in front of me, and then they're handling mine. Man, oh man, when I got home, I spent an hour and a half just literally wiping down every single thing with, like little germy cloth things. So feeling pretty good. Took literally an hour and a half to do all that stuff. So once again, welcome. And do you guys want to pick a conversation starter today? I'm happy to ask questions. I don't want to make this about Taxi. It's not a Taxi promo show, but if you're a member and you've got questions or you're somebody who's been thinking about joining and you've got a question, happy to take it. But let's talk about stuff that is, applicable to musicians all over the world. Robbie Hancock says, so many people are still in denial, Michael. We call them COVIDiots. I love it. That'd be a great band name when this is all over. Brad Gray wants to talk about how to make the best homemade burgers. Go ahead. Throw some suggestions. And then we'll get to Bonzo wants to know any advice on bass levels for drone briefs. levels for drones. Brad Gray says start with beer. That's how you make the best homemade burgers. Okay. What are people working on? That's another topic. Golden wants to know, Taxi'd like you to own 100% of your music. What if it's a collab? You don't have to own it. You just need to control it. In other words, if you've got one or two collaborators that you work with, that's fine. You just need the legal right to pitch that music. You can't pitch something that somebody else is going to come back. Let's say you pitch something to Taxi, we forward it to a music supervisor, they're getting ready to put it in the film, and they reach out to you to do the paperwork, and the person who controls the composition or the master says, no, I don't want that in that movie or that TV show or that commercial. So you need to be able to control it. All right, so let's talk about bass levels for drones. Drones being, that kind of stuff. Somewhat amelodic, textural drones. I mentioned, I think yesterday or maybe in Monday's Taxi TV, that we're starting to get a lot of listings. I think we're going to get a ton of listings where people in the industry are requesting music for TV shows and movies that are going to be coming up about the coronavirus pandemic when this is all over. Maybe when it's not all over, who knows? Anthony France says, love your great drone sound. There you go. I'm the human synthesizer. So one of the things they're going to be looking for, and I'm sure that they could use right now because the news broadcasts are actually using drones, anything that sounds like disaster is on the horizon is good. Think of the movie Contagion. I used that reference yesterday. What was the movie with Dustin Hoffman a million years ago? All the scores really dated for that. Any of those pandemic-oriented movies, go watch those. And you'll notice that forget the orchestral stuff for the moment and watch the more recent films where it's more synthesized stuff. But, when they're looking through the microscope at the virus and they realize all of a sudden that they're getting reports from all over the world and it is, in fact, a pandemic, there will be, I'm trying to think of the right adjective, but basically drones, low drones that in many cases you can barely even hear them. You more feel them sometimes. It's almost like a room tone, It just portends that something really bad is going to happen. So the question was, what about the bass levels for drones? Well, let's assume that, a couple of answers for that. If it's a drone that's going to go in theatrical release, much better sound systems than most of us have at home. And the bottom end is going to be pretty heavy there, but the people who mix the film are going to boost the bottom end to make the seats in the theater vibrate. So I don't think that you need to create like a theatrical release version and a home release version. It really depends on the nature of your drone, how much bass should be in there. But enough. That's the right answer, is enough. If it's too much and you can't tell, then get somebody else to give you an opinion. Maybe throw it up on the Taxi forum, which is forums.taxi.com. It's forums with an S. There's a section in there called peer-to-peer, and you could put your drone up there and say, hey, everybody, do you think that there's enough bottom end in this thing? Peter Rahill says, Ben Stein droning, Bueller from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Very funny. Hello, Martin Gravel. George Gillen says, thought you'd like to know, meaning me. I fly an Anify drone, a camera drone, love it. Maybe I should record its drone. Yeah, because I was talking about, I love flying quadcopters, drones, remote control, anything that flies. I love flying. I hear sirens outside. They're probably coming to get me for doing an inappropriate broadcast or something. Michael, who was the country person you referenced at the beginning that's looking for music? Well, I can't give that out on a video that's going to be seen by hundreds or thousands of people. They would all be Googling that person and reaching out. This is somebody that trusts us to find music. And in some cases, he's actually screening the stuff for Taxi, but he's super well connected, literally knows many, many, many of the top A&R people and producers in Nashville. Okay, let's see. So I talked about that. Oh man, I made another note about something to talk about and I can't read my right. Oh, I wrote the word what. Sorry. Scott Hansen wants to know, I'd like your opinion on what's happening in the radio industry consolidations. What's the future of radio? I'm not as well informed on that as I probably should be, other than consolidations always seem to happen in big dollar industries. And let's face it, every year less and less people are in fact listening to radio. People that used to listen exclusively to radio in their car during their commute are now listening to podcasts. So radio is losing audience. And so consolidations mean that, the accounting, and rather than having a chain over here with 20 stations, another chain of radio stations with 100 stations over there, and each of them has an accounting department, each of them has a legal department, et cetera, et cetera. By consolidating, not only do they become a bigger entity, and it probably boosts the stock price if they're a public company, but it also consolidates things that would go under the heading of general overhead. So I certainly understand why they're doing it. Akira Canyon wants to know, does Michael have a halo over his head? No, that's actually the light in our foyer, which just put that up a couple months ago, and I thought it added some dimension to the space behind me. But look, if I move my head, there's the front door, and it totally blows my lighting scheme. Yeah, you guys love talking about that halo. Oh yeah, welcome to April. We didn't send out an April Fool's email today because there's nothing that funny going on except for Scott Hansen. Nina Harris wants to know, hey Michael, when we tag our music, who sees those tags? Who can draw it to our profile? Who can it draw to our profiles? Technically, it could draw anybody to your profile. Anybody can have access to your profiles and tags. They would have to know you exist, which they do. If your music, first of all, we do have industry people that go on our site. Sometimes we have industry people actually want to screen their own stuff. This has been going on for 28 years. Sometimes they just feel like, hey, if I get my own ears on it, I'm going to do a better job of finding stuff for me than somebody else would. They usually regret that decision because it's a lot of work to screen. It's a lot of work. But they would certainly avail themselves of those things. Most importantly, there are occasions where we get a request in that we can't send out a listing for because somebody needs something in like an hour. And so the staff will then search via those tags for a particular genre or maybe a keyword, see if any of our members have something that we feel would fit. Then we will reach out either, I was going to say email or phone call, probably a phone call if it's like an hour turnaround time. And we'll reach out to that member or members and say, hey, you've got something. We didn't run a listing for this, but we see an opportunity. Do you mind if we submit it to this person? I don't think anybody's ever said no to that. Let's see. Jimmy Carvalho, how are you, man? It is like a crown. Taxi website coming up. Any changes coming up? We are still working on lots of little stuff. Nothing really operationally. We've rolled out so much in the last few months, as you well know. Everybody's profiles, the ability to link to your fellow members and comment on your music and seeing the waveform timelines, all that stuff is new. Cass McKenty wants to know if I've got a Skelvis Peckle hangover from yesterday's little shot that I did. No, surprisingly, I'm somewhat immune to getting hangovers from that. Dan Weber says I should have mystery guests come through your front door. Guess who rang the doorbell? I would, except nobody is getting in this house, man. I am locked down tight. I don't want any germs walking in my house. I will say that I've been talking to some of my industry friends, and they're very amenable to, or do you say amenable, to having me call them on my cell phone, putting them on speaker, and them joining us for a little Q&A during the show. So I'm excited to do that. Maybe I'll try and do one of those tomorrow. Yeah, I could do Guess Who Rang the Doorbell and then hold up my phone and show you guys via the Ring doorbell who's standing there going, come on, you letting me in? Jay Williams wants to know if anybody's experiencing warm or hot weather at the moment because he's weary of the Western Washington chill. Tony Salazzo says he loves the View favorites. Can it be optionally sorted by the closing date? Honestly, I don't know. I know that there are ways to sort it. That one wouldn't surprise me. I think we've got a thing. I was just on the phone with the person who's running the project and our techie the other day, our web dev guy, and we were talking about that stuff, and I can't remember where we landed, honestly. What can I tell you? Do the songs need to be in public mode if the client needs it in an hour? No, the taxi staff would just download it once you give us permission to submit it. Where did I get that cool, funky clock behind me? Amazon. When I was a kid growing up in a little farm town in Illinois, my parents had a very mid-century kind of Dick Van Dyke looking house. Wasn't particularly big or fancy, but we did have some modern accoutrement. And one of the modern accoutrements that we had was a clock like that. I think George Miller was the guy who made that clock. He designed several pieces that became very famous for that time period and ended up in the Museum of Modern Art, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, the original that my parents had on the wall actually plugged into a AC socket in the wall, and they're very, to buy one now, they're worth thousands of dollars. I think one of my nephews got the one that my parents had hanging on their wall. So when my wife and I and kids moved into this house, we saw that one online and bought it, and frankly, it was, I don't know, like $100 or something, whatever it was. It was dirt cheap, and it's operated by a single AA cell, maybe two of them, I don't know, but love that clock. Thanks for noticing. Notice how the color combos underneath it all match the clock. Let's do an HGTV show and do design stuff. I've actually thought it might be fun to do an episode where I show you guys a particular dish that my wife and I used to make when we were dirt poor when I started Taxi. We literally couldn't afford groceries and rent at the same time. And there's a dish that I used to make, taking Polish sausages and slicing them paper thin and making a pasta dish out of it. We still eat it to this day. So maybe one day I'll do a cooking show. Scott Hansen wants to know if he can be a field reporter for Taxi at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame ceremony. It's right down the street from where I live. I've actually been there with another member of ours from Cleveland many years ago. When are they having the ceremony? Because I heard it got pushed back. And I'd be a little embarrassed for you to have a Taxi logo on your microphone, Scott, because I know that you would get us in trouble. That strange sense of humor, but funny sense of humor. Cass McKenty spent the morning mowing 2 acres and chainsawing branches up to 20 feet. Dude, that's a lot of work. Ken Bearden says, my shirt matches. Oh, check this out. Criteria Studios in Miami, my alma mater. I was there for a reunion early November, right before the road rally, and they gave out a special run of T-shirts just for the people that went to the reunion. Let's see. Regarding exclusive, non-exclusive, George Gillen wants to know, I'm amazed that you would give up 100% of your publishing. What are your thoughts? George, don't be amazed. Honestly, it's the norm. You've probably been told, this is a big point. I'm really glad you asked this question. People have been taught forever, don't give up 100% of your publishing. Guess what? That was for a different part of the industry. That was back when I write a song that I would love to get Lady Gaga to cut. Do I want to give up 100% of my publishing on that? No, I'd probably back in the day, and to some extent today, do what's called a co-publishing deal, which is where you split the publisher's share, which is 1/2 of the publishing dollar. It's almost like the publishing is split into two 100% pieces. So the publisher side is usually split in a co-pub deal between the publisher and the creator of the song. The writer side almost always stays with the songwriter. So essentially, in those deals, the songwriter would get 75 cents on every dollar, right? And the publisher may give you an advance to keep food on your table while you're trying to write those hits. That's the record side of the industry. 100%, almost every one of the listings you're going to see for film and TV through Taxi are asking for 100%. Now, somebody you know who's a music attorney, who's an attorney, real estate attorney in Peoria, that took a couple music law courses, or maybe, read, what's his name? I can't think of his name right now. A book about, music law. Oh, no, don't give up 100% of your publishing. It is absolutely 100% normal. It's an everyday thing that for film and television stuff, you do give up 100%. Basically, you're entering into a 50-50 partnership with the production music library. They tag all your music. They probably, in some cases, master the music. They import it into their catalogs, and then they search for it when a request comes in for that type of music. So they do all kinds of stuff that I feel, and I think most of the other people who are experienced with film and TV music who are in the chat room would say, yeah, you know what, giving up 50% of every dollar is quite the norm in film and TV. It's a different type of publishing deal than what you would encounter on the record song pitch side of the industry. Can you guys chime in with a +1 if you agree with that and consider it to be the norm? Sari Osmar says, you guys are hilarious. It's wine o'clock here in Florida. Robbie Hancock says, yes to what Michael said. Peter Rahill saving some Jack Daniels honey for later. Look at all these people chiming in with +1s. So trust me, when you see those Taxi listings or any kind of deal in the film and TV music world, and they want 100% of your publishing, completely normal. Now, the difference between exclusive and non-exclusive, obviously, is that non-exclusive means that you could have the same piece of music with several publishers, thereby increasing your chances, I guess, of getting it picked up. If you've got several people that are pitching it or responding to briefs from the industry with your music, they will retitle it so that it's identifiable as something that came from their catalog. There is the potential that several people could pitch the same piece of music under different titles to the same request from the industry, and then there's a little collision going on there. I have not heard of any big lawsuits or any giant disasters from that happening, but I have seen the pendulum swinging back to exclusive deals, which means you sign it with one company and they've got an exclusive right to pitch it. There are some TV networks that will only use music that's signed exclusively just so they don't get into these problems. Honestly, if we're talking instrumental cues, which are way easier, in my personal opinion, to create than songs are, they're just much faster to put together. You could do 2 or 3 or 4 of them in a day once you become proficient, versus a song that may take, days or even weeks. Libraries, production music libraries now that used to run listings for non-exclusive stuff for instrumentals are now starting to sign those exclusively. And I don't think that's a bad thing, because guess what? Let's say you do a drone, like a sci-fi drone for the up-and-coming COVID-19 movies of the week, and you could do 5 of those. you've already got the settings. You might just want to change, the mood, the emotion, the tempo. Kind of funny saying that in reference to a drone. The key, is it minor? Is it minor seventh? Is it a ninth chord? Whatever variations you have, you've already got most of your sounds from creating the first one. So you could use that as your template and just create more of them that are a little different. So even though the first one you signed to a deal where 100% of the publishing is exclusively owned by that library, you could farm it out elsewhere. Now, if it's a song that you spent a week on, I'd hate to give up 100% of the publishing on that unless I was going with a publisher that had a really good track record, a production music library, if you will, that had a really good track record. Songs that are generally kind of farmed out for film and TV are generally not the ones that have the potential to be big hits. People that write both types know which ones they should kind of keep in reserve and pitch for artists on labels versus ones that go in TV shows. And by the way, they are somewhat, if not a lot, different in nature. I talked about this yesterday. I'll only touch on this for a second because I don't want to be repetitious. But songs for film and TV generally have universal lyrics that don't get specific, that don't tell a story that may already be told in the script. So, you can't talk about my kid loves his little red wagon, when we go for walks Sunday in the park, in a lyric in a song that's going to be in a TV show because the protagonist in the show may not have a kid, may not go for walks in the park. The kid doesn't have a red wagon, none of that stuff. So if you get too specific, not usable. If you talk about, I love nothing more than hanging out with my son, that is more usable. You could be even less specific and say, in so many words, being with family is awesome, thematically in your song, and that makes it less specific. Let's see. When submitting for exclusive requests, is the song held indefinitely? Are we notified if it is rejected so we can resubmit? Here's the thing, Akira. You can resubmit that thing from the minute you submit it for one listing. You can submit it for 5 other listings. You can submit it to entities outside of Taxi. You can do anything you want. Because just because somebody else is considering it, you shouldn't sit there, and wait to hear from them. Most of the time you won't, frankly. What are the odds, I mean, if they've got 22 things that are under consideration for a particular slot, and yours is one of the 22, you've got a 1 in 22 chance. You may have a 1 in 5 chance. You may have a 1 in 100 chance. Whatever the chance is, you want it out there, as I said yesterday, and I'll say this probably every day, you want to plant as many seeds as you can, and the first one that pops out of the ground with a sprout, that's the one you probably should sign the deal with, if it's a deal that's acceptable to you. Hey, Gloria, welcome to the show. Good to see you back. Did I just see Keith LeBrant in the chat room? Hey, Keith, if that was you. So I scroll off the list. Okay, Nina Harris is asking, if I had a choice between an exclusive and non-exclusive deal, which one would I choose? It depends on the circumstances. The answer for me, I think it's the answer for everybody, frankly, although I can't impose my will on all of you. There are some libraries that want 100% of the publisher's share on a song, and they don't give you anything up front. But they're extremely good libraries that have amazingly good track records. And frankly, I would say to myself, you know what? It's not the only great song I'm going to write in my lifetime. If I was capable of writing that one, I can probably write 10 more of those over the next year. So I'm not going to be so precious about that song. Am I going to do a deal with a library that I know is hardworking, has a great track record of placements, they're honest, and if I'm going to have a shot somewhere, I've got a great shot there, I would give them an exclusive for no money up front. But There are other libraries that will do that same deal with you, and they've got a 3-year reversion, meaning that if they don't get it placed anywhere over 3 years, some have a 1-year reversion, which is kind of short. You just don't hear 2 years popping up a lot. 3 seems to be a number that a lot of people land on. 3-year reversion. If they haven't gotten it placed anywhere in 3 years, you get all the rights back. But you have to be on your game. Keep a spreadsheet or use Composer Catalog, which Keith LeBrant actually invented that software, to track where all your stuff is and set alarms to know that, 30 days before your 3-year contract would be up, that you get a ding or a beep, and you know that you need to reach out to that publisher and send them an email saying, I'd like to terminate our relationship on that song. Robbie Hancock is saying, depends on the library. Generally, I like my songs non-exclusive. My instrumental cues are exclusive. There are exceptions. There are always exceptions to everything. Nina Harris says, thank you. Lots of good info. And thank you guys for chiming in on that. Wow, I can't believe we only have 24 minutes left. This is just flying by. Cass McKenty wants to know if the Bird of Paradise flowers that were in the video on Monday, they will be making a return this week. More have bloomed. Yes, they were from in front of our house. We have a cleaning lady that comes, well, she used to come, she ain't coming now, once every 2 weeks for like 4 hours, and so she was here 2 weeks ago, I guess, 3 weeks ago, whenever. And I came home, and she had taken it upon herself to go outside with a sharp knife and cut those Birds of Paradise flowers off, the only 3 that had bloomed in front of the house, and they looked so good in front of the house. We finally had a little curb appeal going on, and she just cut those suckers off and stuck them in the vase, or do you say vase? And I got to say, I was a little upset. I saw her on the Ring doorbell. I was sitting in my office, and it went ding, ding, and I look, I see her name is America. I love her name. I call her America the Beautiful, and she smiles every time and puts up with me. And I see her cutting these, I see her walking out of the house with a knife. I thought, oh my God, we hired a serial killer. But she cut the flowers off. I came home from work, and they were sitting on the kitchen counter in a lovely vase. And I noticed that I was out in front of the house yesterday afternoon, and I noticed more bloom. So when they are in full bloom, I will bring them in. I'm surprised the orchids are still alive. Somebody that came over for a dinner one night, like 2 months ago, brought those. My wife has, I guess you'd call it a black thumb for things that grow in the house. She's good with stuff out in the garden. As a matter of fact, I'm looking out there right now, and everything is in bloom, and the bees are very happy. Anyway, yeah, it seems like every time I buy my wife flowers, in 3 days they're dead. And she cuts the bottom of the stem off on an angle, and she puts the powder in the water that's supposed to make them last longer. Anyway, Anthony Franz wants to know, what if the music requester wants 100% of the publishing, but TuneCore has a claim on the music just on YouTube? Boy, am I glad you asked that question. I've talked about that a lot on Taxi TV, which I want to remind everybody, if you're not a member and you're new to this show, Monday at 4 o'clock, Taxi TV, every Monday, and we talk about this stuff all the time. Oh, no, I've got it. God forbid. Anyway, everybody's got to be super duper careful. So many people have filled out the paperwork or online forms with, CD Baby and TuneCore and other companies like that. And they're legit companies. There's nothing wrong with those companies. But it's a little misleading if you don't read carefully and you don't know what you're doing. And I don't think that they're intentionally being evil, but here's the problem. So you're filling out this thing, you're uploading your song, and you're using TuneCore as your distributor to get it out there to all these places where it can stream and it can be sold, blah, blah, blah. And you see a little thing shows up near the bottom, says, would you like us to monetize this online for you and bring you some income? And you go, hell yeah, and you check that box. Well, the fine print says you've signed a publishing deal. Some of them, it's a non-exclusive deal, meaning that you can do deals with other companies that are also non-exclusive, but you'll be precluded from doing a deal with anybody that's an exclusive library or publisher. Some of the deals that those online distributors ask you to sign are in fact exclusive. And members forget that they have, not just Taxi members, pretty much every musician in the world, I'm thinking, just from what we've seen in the last couple of years, they check those boxes off. Hell yeah, man, if I can make, an extra $500,000, a couple $1,000 for doing nothing, hell yeah, check that box. And then they're submitting this stuff for, music library deals. Let's take it away from publishers and say that you've submitted it for a direct-to-music supervisor request through Taxi. Okay? So you have given away your publishing, either exclusively or non-exclusively, to one of those entities because they said, check the box if you'd like us to monetize it for you. And lo and behold, you get that thing in a major motion picture. And while you're not going to make anything in theatrical release, because PROs don't pay for theatrical performances in the United States, pretty much everywhere else in the world that's the opposite. But let's say that movie turns out to be a blockbuster hit, and for the rest of your life, that movie plays on TV like 3 times a week all over the world. You're going to be giving up half of your money on that because you signed a deal with one of those online music distribution companies and forgot that you did it. Or let's say that you forgot that you did it and you submit it for a Taxi listing with a really awesome film and TV music publisher, and they go to sign a deal with you. They're going to check your background or they're going to do their due diligence on that particular song, and they're going to go, hey, you've already got a publishing deal on this song. And you go, oh, it's only with TuneCore and it's not exclusive and it's just for web stuff. They're going to go, I'm sorry, I'm not doing that deal. And they're going to look at you, I don't want to say like you're an idiot. That's unkind. They're going to look at you like you're an amateur, like you don't know what you're doing. And they are going to be disinclined to pay any attention to any music they get from you in the future. They do not have the time, nor do they have the will to deal with people that are uninitiated and uneducated as to the ways that the real music industry works. They are not running a kindergarten. They're not in the business of hand-holding. They just want to get that music out there, make money for them, and make money for you in the process. And if you are putting up obstacles for them, like, oh, gee, I forgot I signed a deal with TuneCore a few years ago, they're going to move on to the next person because there is no shortage of good music coming from good people out there. So people, if you are submitting your music for film and TV placements and you have the same music distributed online through any entity, please go look at your contracts because you can literally earn yourself a bad reputation in a split second by submitting music that is already signed elsewhere. We experience it on Taxi TV all the time. We're doing an episode, we play music from our members on the episode, and then before I even finish the episode, we're getting copyright notices. We're not getting takedowns, but we're getting notified that we can't monetize the show. Even before we monetize the shows, we were getting notices from YouTube saying that, sometimes we'll play like 12 to 15 pieces of music. We will get notices before the show's even over that maybe half of those or more are already signed to deals. And most of the time it's through TuneCore, sometimes CD Baby, sometimes some other entities. I get emails pretty frequently for stuff that we had on Taxi TV 7 or 8 years ago. And people uploaded it through CD Baby, TuneCore, DistroKid, whatever. Check that box. And so there you go. Be professional. I'm scanning to see if I can find something really good to answer. In all fairness, I think TuneCore will not take it away and rather compensate you for their publishing service, but I agree it will preclude you from signing a track on an exclusive basis. CD Baby does digital distribution. It looks like their store platform is gone. That's interesting. Chris LaRue says, I did have a library of trailer songs of 6 songs with a UK-based company. There was no reversion clause. The library has not placed any of the songs yet. Is it possible for another home for them? You could reach out to the company. And how long have you... It doesn't say how long you've had the songs with that company, Chris. Look, if they've been in there for a number of years and they haven't placed them, it's not like they are necessarily falling asleep on the job. You know, it just could be that they've got no requests for what you've got or what you have in their catalog. So you may come up against the same thing elsewhere. They may sound, I don't know, they could be 2 years old, they could be 12 years old. If it's songs from 12 years ago, it could be that the styles are just a little long in the tooth, kind of dated sounding, and you may not get a better response anywhere. It could be that the library doesn't have that many industry contacts. There's so many reasons why that could be that way. But yeah, you could always reach out to them and say, hey guys, in all fairness, you've had the stuff, let's say for 5 years, not even a nibble. Would you release me? They may. Let's see. I guess scroll down. Okay, so Peter Rahill wants to know, okay, so, all that stuff considered that I just spoke about, what's recommended distribution for single songs like the Road Rally Mentors advised? You can use any of those companies. Like I said, they are all good, solid, reputable companies, and they're not doing anything to hurt you or be scummy. Some people have argued that point with me, but just don't check the box that says, yes, monetize the stuff online for me. It's one thing if they're selling it. It's another thing if it's a publishing deal. If the language talks about publishing, don't do it. I've had tracks, Fostuff says, I've had tracks were signed to a TV station's publisher, which were used for their TV shows, but the TV station closed down about 20 years ago. Can I get the rights back? Yeah, you probably can. They may have sold the catalog. If they didn't sell the catalog and it's just laying fallow somewhere, you should hire Erin Jacobson. She's a music attorney that many of us use and really, really like. And one of the things she does is chase down dead deals like that to find out if they are in fact dead. She's not cheap, but she's really good and she's very likable and she's thorough. So just Google Erin, Erin Jacobson, Jacobson. I think her site is Erin at the musicindusтрylawyer.com, I believe. You won't hear me say nice things about attorneys very often, but I do say nice things about her. Matt Bannell says, even exclusive deals often allow you to put your stuff up on Spotify for self-promotion. That's true. But they're happy to have you do their work for them. If you're putting it up in places that will drive people to check out your music and possibly generate publishing income, hell yeah, they're going to say, sure, go for it, dude. Bye, Laurel. Okay, Gifford Smith says, what are your thoughts about Dave Grohl's comment? It does matter how good. I don't know if he means does or doesn't. It does matter how good you are musically. Play your music with 100% commitment, with genuine authenticity. The rest will take care of itself. It does not matter. He clarified. Okay. I love Dave Grohl, and I agree with a lot of comments he makes like that, and I tend to agree with this one. I would rather have a song that somebody could be a little pitchy, or maybe they're not the world's greatest guitar player, It's just a solo acoustic guitar. It sounds like it's got 10-year-old strings that are rusted out, recorded into the microphone of their Mac laptop. But the person's soul and that their commitment to the song and the meaning they bring to the lyrics comes from their toenails and just comes up through their legs, through their heart, out through their mouth. And you go, man, I am buying that. I mean, emotionally buying into it. Performance, commitment, and authenticity can often trump slick vocals or other stuff. Yep. Yesterday we were talking about what does broadcast quality mean, and I said that it can mean different things in different circumstances. You could have like a Tom Waits or Bob Dylan type of thing. It's just acoustic guitar, vocal, and you probably can't even understand half the words, but the emotion, the commitment, the authenticity is there. That makes it broadcast quality because you could use it in the context of a movie or a TV show. You could have somebody else that has, recorded their stuff with a multi-platinum producer in a world-class recording studio with A-list session players, an incredible mix. Everything about it is just like, Porsche good. There you go. Or Ferrari good, Maserati good, whatever. It's just amazing. But if the singer's commitment isn't there, if the authenticity isn't there in the delivery, all it is, there's an expression that's been around the industry for as long as I've been in it. Trust me, I've been in the industry since like 1975, 45 years in the industry. And this phrase, I heard it in my first week in the industry. It's still true today. You can't polish a turd. Well, actually, you can polish a turd, but all you have is a shiny turd. Wow, 9 minutes left. These hours just fly by. LeBrant, why are you going, man? We got 9 minutes left. Get your butt back. Ken Bearden wants to know if in 28 years I've ever submitted a taxi under an alias to see if I could get forwarded. No, and I never will. Even if I wrote something, which I don't, I'm not a writer. But even if I did, I wouldn't. I can't compete against our members. I mean, frankly, I have a daughter who's a very talented singer-songwriter. She was never, ever allowed to submit anything to Taxi. Dan Weber wants to know if you can put a lot of compression on a turd. Yeah. You'd be squashing the turd, as it were. Clean your shoes off after you do it. Glenn Lett says, hours fly by and it's a great show. Thanks, Glenn. Glad you could join us today. Can I play you a song? Frankly, I would love to play a song on every one of these episodes. But man, oh man, I'm just so afraid of getting stuff in from you guys that's gonna be signed, where you check the box. I will consider it, but we don't want to spend the time on our end. We're all incredibly busy and all working remotely right now. If we get 100 submissions in for a show, I don't want Ariana to have to go online. I don't even know if she could go online and see if you guys have actually checked the box. I think most of you don't even know if you checked the boxes. No offense. It's just people forget. I don't remember. I mean, look, we all click the OK button when we don't read terms and conditions online, right? I think anybody that sees the first sentence, would you like us to monetize your music? Hell yeah. Well, you just signed an exclusive publishing deal and you don't even know it and remember it if you did know it. Let's see. Is there anything else I want to talk about before we go today? Once again, remember, don't forget to go into the comments. A few minutes after this show wraps up, the comments will be available to post in. And the person who has the best comment, you know what? If you guys want to suggest topics for tomorrow's Quarantini happy hour, suggest topics. And maybe let's do that. The person who suggests the best topic for tomorrow's show gets a copy of Steve Barden's book. But you're going to have to be patient because they're at the office. And we're not going to mail them out until after we're allowed to go back to the office. I actually went to the office on Sunday afternoon. I got to tell you, It was cold and lonely in there. It was really weird. I mean, I spend so much time in the office all by myself, especially during road rally season, but hardly a weekend goes by when I'm not in the office. There are many nights where the staff leaves at 6 and I'm there till 7, 8, 9 o'clock. But something this time, because it was like an imposed, you got to leave. And it felt like there was like a nuclear holocaust or something. And I was walking back in time. It was really sad. Paul just joined an hour late. Hi, Paul. Good to see you. Anyway, you can always watch the rerun. Regani, I've known you for 20 years. Is it Regani or Rogani? I think it's actually Rogani. She gives me amazing shoulder rubs after the road rally every year. Out in the lobby in the bar area where everybody can see, and usually my wife is somewhere nearby. But Rogs is a masterful masseuse. And she does yoga and all kinds of cool stuff like that. By the way, Ariana informed me about an hour before we went live on today's show that you won the book yesterday. So congratulations. Monty Craig just heard that ASCAP payments for April are going to be delayed. Not surprising, I mean, everybody had to bug out. Rogani. Okay, I'm sure I've asked you that 1,000 times. My brain ain't what it used to be. I'm getting old. Rogani. Frankly, I thought for the first 5 years I knew you, I thought your name was Rogs because you've got so many close friends at the Taxi Road Rally that all call you Rogs. I thought your name was Rogs. Rogs to riches. Where can you hear my daughter's music? I'll tell you what, I will turn you on to a song that is not typical at all of what she writes. She co-wrote a song called Runner, Runner. If you Google, and she goes by stage name Hannah DeFore. If you Google Hannah DeFore, DeFore, Runner, Runner, Merrill Twins. It's the Merrills singing the song, but Hannah co-wrote it. And, it's a little pop ditty that is very not typical for what she normally does, but the Merrills asked her to write for them, and she did. It's got 5 million views. That'll get you a cheeseburger nowadays. Michael, I'd love to stream a local gig. What's your streamcasting setup? Or are you working with YouTube directly? I'm working on something that I hope we can pull off. There's so many people doing live concerts and streams and blah, blah, blah. I'm working on something different and special, and I hope that it brings joy to some people's lives that I think really need it right now. But I don't want to talk about it until I've got it in the bag, and it's not going to be easy pulling it off, but I'll let you know when I do. It is Rogs. 2 more minutes. When this whole Corona thing is over, I think I'll spend a couple of quiet days at home. Good going, Matt. I think when this whole thing is over, everybody's going to run out their front door and hug somebody. If I post my songs on my YouTube channel, does YouTube automatically claim ownership of my material? No, they do not. Anthony Francis, the quality of this webcast has been excellent for me. Are you talking about the content or the video quality in the streaming? I think you're talking about video quality in the streaming. I hope the content was pretty good. This has been fun. Thank you. You're welcome. Peter Rahill, always great to see you. All right. Looks like everybody's bugging out a minute early. Maybe I should start the theme music. Actually, I meant to open the show with... And now it's time for another exciting episode of Quarantini Happy Hour, brought to you this week by Taxi, the independent A&R company. Anyway, don't forget, go in the, the comments in a couple of minutes after they get the show up, And I will see you guys tomorrow. Don't forget, give me some good topic starters. The best topic starter wins a book. Hey, Michael, do you use OBS for streaming software? No, I tried it. I couldn't understand it. We use Wirecast, which we're really happy with. OBS, it's open source and just, it was hard. It was clunky. I did recently check it out like a month or so ago again, and it has gotten better. Thanks for doing this, Michael. A lot of fun, helpful too. You're welcome, Brad. Glad to do it. I enjoyed doing it. Wirecast, Wirecast. That's it. Good night, folks. All right. See you guys tomorrow for the Thursday edition of the Taxi Quarantini Happy Hour, starring you guys. See you guys.